What is going on, bros? I am BDLM coming to you with my buddy J4Y, bringing you second Brocast Breakdown. What is going on, Jay?
Not much, man. Glad to have you with me here in the second one. Give a little more insight on these things. And for those who don't know what exactly this is, basically we're going to do a lot of analytical viewing rather than just, shoutcasting it. We're going to actually give you a little insight, into maybe hero builds, kind of how their lineup looks, and, we'll go into detail with that a little later. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We're actually doing this little cast here of our friends playing Orange, Terps, and Bonk. Friends that me and J4Y play with pretty often, so it'll be interesting watching them and getting to maybe critique them a little bit. But yeah, we're really going to try and focus in on a lot of the team composition, the hero builds, and how these heroes actually function in these games, in their roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And since obviously our friends are on the Radiant side, what better team to start with than that team, I suppose? So I guess they decided to go with Sven and Leshrac top composition in the long lane. They have that Shadow Fiend rather in the middle, and then they have an Enchantress jungling with Queen of Pain bottom. So what's your initial thoughts on their team comp?
It's interesting to see, what they're trying to build. I do like seeing Queen of Pain here in the long lane. I think she'll have a pretty okay time here against Windrunner. I don't see her being pushed out of the lane too easily, so she should be able to farm pretty well. The Queen of Pain is so good at being middle, though. It's kind of sad to not see her there.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to agree with you, but since they did decide to go with that Shadow Fiend, I think he really is a great middle. Like, he can just put tons of pressure on that middle lane. He can push it up with his Shadow Raises, which obviously do just a bajillion damage to creeps and whoever he hits with it. And then, of course, since they have that Enchantress, they knew they had to run a solo bottom. And Queen of Pain has a really good escape, and that's probably why they threw her down there, is because compared to Shadow Fiend, who really doesn't have any, she can get out of a tough situation.
Yeah, both Shadow Fiend actually almost helping pick up a kill down there at the bottom. Doesn't have that bottle. He is really going to need that in order to be able to keep up the mana for the Shadow Raises. But both him and Quap really rely on those bottles heavily. That's just kind of a really nice thing about them, too. When you're playing the mid, if you're trying to play these heroes, you really need to try and be mobile. Try and get into the other lanes and provide ganks. That's kind of what I was hinting at with saying that, it's unfortunate to see Queen of Pain here in the bottom. She's not really going to be able to get around to the other lanes easily. She's going to need to kind of stick in this lane, defend her tower, and pick up whatever farm she can.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be just a farm fest down here. I mean, Windrunner with her power shot clears pretty much a whole creep wave with one hit, and then Queen of Pain with her Scream of Pain. Isn't that great how those pretty much rhyme, or it's the same word? Either way, they're very effective at taking out creep waves, so probably don't see too much action unless that Behemoth, I call him Behemoth. His name's Earthshaker. If he runs back into bottom, I've done that a couple times now. I'm going to try to stop. If he comes down bottom, he's very effective, of course, setting up ganks. And he was actually trying to do that in the middle lane earlier and kind of failed at it. But that's one of his really high perks, is he can roam so well.
Yeah, when you did your first episode of this, you got to go over some of the rules of heroes and stuff. But this is one that didn't exist there. Having this roaming hero trying to get around and set up ganks in the other lanes, as you said. Unfortunately, Earthshaker really hasn't been able to do much with it. Even when they have Prophet come in, they aren't able to kill Terps or Orange here in the top lane. I am seeing something very interesting, though. Something you don't see very often on heroes that we see on, but you do see it a lot actually on Sven, which is you go the stun and then stats, which I think is something kind of really interesting. What do you think about that in the situation?
Well, as I said in the first episode, I like to build based on the game and my situation. I mean, there is always the cookie cutter builds, but it's not always a good idea to just assume, okay, I have to build this skill build X, every single game. In his case, obviously maxing Stormhammer is going to be usually the most effective because it does not increase the mana cost. However, the damage goes up a pretty decent amount, and of course, it is that AOE stun. So, it's a nice big nuke, and, obviously mash that up with a Leshrac combo. You're going to do a ton of damage. But I honestly, I think I usually would build Sven with that 1 point in that War Cry just because of that 12% bonus speed. I mean, that's kind of huge.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's really what I was kind of gonna talk about. There is, I really would love to see 1 point in it. It's a really kind of weird ability, and even heroes you're familiar with, you should always kind of just like every once in a while just give a quick read over the things. I never actually really realized that you get all of the speed bonus right up front, and it's only the armor that scales. So really picking up the 1 point in that it gives you everything that you really want out of that ability. The armor is just kind of like icing on the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking, since we're talking about Sven, I kind of want to go over a couple things to point out here in this top lane. So they're matched up against a Pudge with a Prophet jungling. So it's a solo Pudge. That's obviously, first of all, it's a horrible place for him. He can't even get close to the creeps, and he's obviously going to keep struggling. And as you see Orange doing here, since he's kind of playing that support role, he already bought an Observer Ward, and you can see the placement. That way, Pudge's specialty, of course, is hiding behind a bunch of trees and hooking you when you don't expect it. But with that Observer Ward there, he's really just, that whole point of him is taken out of the game, and he's a lot less effective. And then I kind of want to also touch on Leshrak's skill build. And he's maxing out Diabolic Edict. I mean, do you agree with that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I kind of think I can understand it. I mean, you get the AoE damage. It also damages buildings, I do believe. Yes, it does. So, when you're kind of in this 2v1 lane, you're probably going to get the opportunity to push up and put some damage on that tower, but they haven't yet. So that's why I'm not really sure if I like it or not. I kind of like it in theory, but like you were saying, even though that kind of makes sense in the situation, just because they're not actually making that happen, I don't know if it's really worth going into. I mean, the stun duration on Split Earth stays the same, just talking about like we did with Sven. You get what you want just from the 1 point. So it's really not that important to level. You do get the increased radius, which is nice, making it easier to stun more people.
It's a pretty small increase over time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the damage from the other spells is more important, and the jumps, especially when you're talking about Lightning Storm, is more important than the radius increase.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, honestly, the biggest reason he may have chose to go that build, of course, if they can ever get to the tower, it's his strongest move to push. And then also, if he is up against a Pudge, which obviously any melee hero, Leshrak, if he's up against one, it's his strongest move against them. Because obviously, once they get in melee range, he pops that, and they are usually one of the only targets in range of that, and all of the things are going to hit that melee hero. So, for example, if you solo mid as a Leshrak and you're up against Pudge, definitely the strongest thing to level up, just because when he hooks you in, you just use it, and he's going to take a ton of damage.
Yeah, I think it's neat to see. We actually haven't gone over the opposing team yet. It's so much fun just watching our friends try and play, but Shaker just now bought boots before they didn't have any items because he's playing this roaming position. He did actually help pick up a kill there, so that's nice. Unfortunately, it was a 1-for-1 trade, so he kind of just helped balance the scales. But I think it's also neat to see. You see Bonk is up here in his opponent's jungle trying to apply pressure to Nature's Prophet.
Yeah, it's really smart to try counter jungle. Enchantress, I mean, not as effective as possibly other junglers. I mean, all she can really do is enchant. She can enchant multiple creeps at a time, but they have a limited duration compared to like a Chen, just for example. And as you see here, he was kind of overextended and without any real good vision. I mean, they have a couple wards, but when you get that deep in the jungle, you're most likely going to get caught if you don't have some kind of backup on the way.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the problem with her, too. When you do it, like, you think Prophet, if he does it, he can TP out. I mean, he could get stunned and stopped. He has kind of ways of getting away, whereas Enchantress, not so much, really. She has the heal, and she kind of has to pray that she can run for help, by then.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing to point out here, Nature Prophet's level 9. That's ridiculously insane. It's the same level as the solos in middle, whereas look, it's Enchantress, because she kind of wasted all that time counter jungling and trying to be, ganking and whatnot. She's only level 5, and that's a huge difference. And I mean, once she gets that ultimate, she can be a really effective ganker, and you enchant that any hero 40% slow at the start, and then you start throwing those impetus. I think that's the pronunciation.
Impetus.
Impetus.
It's okay. The English language is very,
It's
very
hard to master
ridiculous.
when you're
So
born in the U.S. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, would you agree on that?
what was the question? I got caught up on the English language.
It's tough to deal with. I was basically just saying, how effective Enchantress once she hits level 6 can really be.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, she can do just a ton of damage, and then when she gets untouchable and stuff, she's really. I think her and probably Prophet are probably some of the best like carry style junglers, as opposed to like Enigma, who's really kind of pushing base, even though Prophet's really good at pushing as well. So here I have a question for you. I'm a newbie
Okay.
and I want to play jungle heroes, and here's my predicament. Do you play kind of the style that Bonk's playing, where you try and be aggressive in the jungle, you're trying to catch your opponents in a bad spot? As we can see, Prophet's actually going to TP right next to Bonk, and they're going to be forced to fight here, but there you go. Because he's so far extended, Shaker's right nearby. It looks like he is going to get away here. But, do you want to try and play this like Bonk is, playing really aggressive? Oh, here comes a stun from Sven. I'm going to go ahead and cast this. I don't care. It's right here. You might as well, right? He's going to activate the speed boost, helping them keep up. But does Bonk have Impetus? No, not yet. They are able to pick up the kill with the help of Leshrac when he finally gets up there. But Power Shot going to do some damage to Bonk. Bonk getting really low. He is probably going to get picked off here. A good Shackle Shot will ensure the kill. Staying around a little bit longer than he probably should have. Okay, back to my question. I'm terrible, and I win at jungle.
That's okay.
We've gotten across that I'm terrible. Okay.
Yes.
Would you rather jungle kind of aggressive in the opponent's jungle, and then maybe get the kind of slow start that Bonk has, or would you rather someone play like Prophet, who hasn't been to the other lanes much, hasn't tried to set up a lot of ganks, he's just trying to farm up like a nut?
In the newbie shoes, I would definitely advise to go. I think Nature's Prophet or Enchantress. And then yes, I would advise not trying to do counter jungling, especially. That is really challenging to do, and it can really set you up to be not as effective in the mid to late game. I mean, and it's already showing, as I pointed out. Nature's Prophet level 10. Did she die before she... Okay, she did hit 6 at least, but still, she is so much behind him. Nature's Prophet's almost got his Staff of the Master, or that's not what it's called.
Augment Scepter.
I love to switch terms up so much, it's amazing. But, and you compare that to Enchantress items, and all she has is a couple gauntlets and, that magic wand. So, yeah, I mean, starting out, I would really try to focus on, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best path I can take in my own jungle, the most effective. Obviously, starting out, you would try to go for the toughest creep pull, which is generally towards the middle. I guess, should I be more specific on one side or the other? I mean, let's just say the Radiant, for example. Right below where that ward is, that's going to be the camp you're going to want to start at, because there's going to be one of the toughest creeps there. Hopefully either like a Magnetar or something that's going to be nice and strong and tanky, do a lot of damage. And once you pick up one of those, and if it's a really effective ganking one, such as like that Magnetar, who can do an AoE stun, then okay, maybe at level 2 or 3 you try to go into the lane and help them out. But besides that, I think it'd be better off just focus on farming.
Yeah, I mean, I think counter jungling is probably not the way to go, but I think you do want to try and, when you're playing those jungle heroes, gank the other lanes, trying to apply pressure on the other lane. Even if you don't do a ton, like even if you just run your creep in there and just scare them away, maybe try and land a stun if we're talking about someone like Enchantress who can mind control a creep. Just remind the lane that you're right nearby, and that if they try and get ballsy, that you can just step in and help turn it around. I think that's something really important to do. So, of course, just running around and killing the creeps nonstop like we've been seeing Prophet doing, that's getting him good farm. But it's also going to get you and the rest of your team good farm if you help them out and you help generate kills and help set back the opposing team.
Yeah, absolutely. Chen is not a very noob-friendly hero, to say the least. He is a very effective, and you see him banned in a lot of competitive games when these professionals who are really good at micromanaging all their different units, obviously they're going to be really effective with them. But if you're kind of just starting out, I wouldn't suggest him, just because, yeah, like I said, he really does well with a lot of heroes under his control. He eventually can get up to 3 of them, And if you can just chain off their abilities one after another on someone, it's a ton of usually a lot of CC and buffs you can provide.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about kind of the noob-friendly junglers, Prophet's probably the best one. He is very mobile, so he can get around the map quickly. In really bad situations, he can kind of recover pretty easily because he can just kind of help out, and then he can get right back into farming in the jungle, etc. It's pretty easy to... Oh, actually just saw a complete whiff by Queen of Pain dropping an ulti on a Nature Prophet who got out and didn't catch any of it. But and his ulti helps him farm so easily too. It's not even something you have to aim. I didn't even realize this at first, but you don't even have to cast it on anything. You can just hit the button and click next to you, and it'll just cast around the map. But yeah, if you're looking to get into junglers, Nature's Prophet's a strong way to go. You can pick up the Hand of Midas like this one has, and then go into the Ogden Scepter, which increases the damage and the number of bounces that it does, helping you farm even better. But I'm not sure how I like the Hands of Midas. It's something that if you don't finish them quickly, then you've kind of wasted a lot of time, and you have to keep using it whenever it's up in order to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, Hand of Midas has kind of always been one of those very debatable items. I mean, it takes so long to pay itself off in the long run. And all it really provides besides the transmute is just 30 attack speed, which in itself is not obviously a lot of stats. It's kind of like almost a waste of a slot. But, I mean, I guess it's just one of those items where you want to try to get really early, like you said, and just, farm with it as best you can. Obviously, since he's going to be in the jungle most of the game, he can just go and transmute one of those really big creeps I was discussing earlier. It's a really good item. We didn't point it out, but it's a good thing to point out when they're against another jungler who does get minions like Chen or Enchantress. Because, for example, let's just say Enchantress runs in with her Centaur Con. He can just transmute it, and then now she doesn't have that for the fight.
Yeah, definitely. It's really nice when you get that ability to just take out a 2-second stun, I believe it is on the Centaur. I don't actually know what it is, but a stun nonetheless, giving you additional gold and helping take away some of their pushing power as well. Yeah, I think it is interesting when we're talking about I'm just thinking about item builds and the way that the other side of the board's playing. Unfortunately, I think Prophet's the only one we've really touched on. Prophet, Windrunner, Pudge, Ancient Apparition, and this Earthshaker who is able to finish his Arcane Boots. Yay! Windrunner actually going a pretty standard competitive build, getting this Force Staff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really strong item. Generally, you'll see Windrunners, depending on, I guess, what their team needs, either go for that early Force Staff or go for, actually, probably more often, I would say Mechanism is built first on her. And the reason is, of course, if you can get that really quickly, it's one of those items that's super effective in the beginning of the game. I mean, it provides a heal that's a lot of your health early on in the piece, compared to obviously later when it's only, I think it's a 250 heal or a 300. It's roughly around there, regardless. And then it also provides that armor boost afterwards. So it's really good for like pushing lanes, getting engaged in those team fights, that kind of thing. So yeah, like I said, you'll see that also generally picked up early, but I guess she decided she'd rather have that Force Staff.
Yeah, she used it earlier to help save herself from death, so obviously it's making its use apparent. It heals for 250 and then gives 2 armor to everyone affected by the heal.
Right on the
I had
money.
something. There you go. You're just if you had guessed the armor, then I would have just give you a nice little pat on the back, but no encouraging close. We encourage perfection.
Of course, here at Brocast. Anyways,
there was something I wanted to say. I don't remember what it was now.
Well, then.
For what it's worth,
I'll take on the next topic then.
Okay.
The typical item build for an Ancient Apparition.
Oh no! Shut up. Here's the cool thing. No, what is? Go ahead and say it because this will tie in. Go ahead.
Oh well, that's beautiful. Obviously he's a solo mid Ancient Apparition. Oh no, he wasn't. Was he?
No, I don't think so. Wait.
He was.
Yes, he was.
Wow, we are paying attention like champs.
Wow.
No, he was that solo mid hero because he had the bottle.
Did you see that hook? I'm sorry. That was pretty awesome.
I can't say it was because I was focused on Ancient Apparition.
So well, he was right next to him.
It wasn't right next. That's up a hill. Pudge has hit some. I've seen a couple though. He's done some good hooks, and he's kind of one of those heroes that punishes heroes that are not paying attention to their location. I guess we could put it that way. Let me just get back to Ancient Apparition. Then you can talk about Pudge all day.
Do I have to?
Because Pudge is a fun topic to talk about. But anyways, the Ancient Apparition, it looks like he decided to go with an Ultimate Orb first because his farm must have been pretty decent. He's probably going to turn that into that Null Stone. I guess the main purpose of that is to prevent Sven from stunning him.
That's just a weird pickup. It doesn't really make sense.
I think, honestly, and this kind of... I think I like to build him similar to Windrunner. In the sense that either get a mech or a Force Staff early on. I guess Force Staff wouldn't be as great against this lineup as others, but I would have liked to see a mech early on for him. Just so, like, as you can see, they're already doing these team fights, but they don't have a mech anywhere in sight, and it doesn't look like anyone's planning on even building one. And I just can't stress enough how important a mech and the Pipe of Insight are for team fights. But you would think Pudge would eventually build like a Pipe of Insight on his team.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what I was trying to remember to bring up was, I think it's something interesting when you look at like Dota 2 compared to LoL is you kind of have to get used to the fact, like if you're coming over from LoL, that nothing makes intelligence heroes better per se, like in the game, because their moves don't scale with anything like they do in League of Legends, where you can pick up AP. So really, what you're trying to do is those kind of intelligence heroes. Some of them will wind up wanting to get like Staff, Aghanim Scepter, try and make their ultimates better. Like if you think of somebody like Zeus, they might want to try and do that. But for the most part, like when we're looking at heroes like Windrunner, you think, okay, the stun, the damage from Power Shot, like that's all fantastic, and you don't need anything else. To make yourself any better. There's nothing you can really buy to make you a better influence in team fights.
Right.
Other than Force Staff. I mean, you could Force Staff yourself into a position that you could Shackle Shot someone better. But yeah, so when you're kind of in those situations where it's like, okay, you're pretty much going to do the best you can do no matter what, you want to try and build those items like Mechanism, like Pipe of Insight, that will give you additional benefits in these team fights instead of going, other items that really wouldn't provide you that much of a benefit.
Right, and like as you were saying, intellect heroes, their not sole purpose, but their main purpose is to provide generally a CC of some sort, some nice nuking abilities, and then from there just spamming spells during fights. And then beyond that, they're not going to be auto-attacking a whole lot. They're going to be, majorly just getting in good positions to cast their next spell. And then if they can provide like that mech heal, like you were saying, Sheep Stick, of course, another very useful item for intellect heroes to pick up. That kind of thing, then like you were saying, that's just obviously maybe the path they should choose. Enchantress, she is suffering so much this game. It still has the same items I think I talked about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. Like I was playing a game earlier today with Terps, and don't ask me why, but it was a Windrunner and Shadow Shaman. Shadow Shaman?
That's a lot of CC.
No, it's not Shadow Shaman. Who am I thinking of?
I don't know, because Shadow Shaman has a lot of CC. Is it melee or ranged?
Demented Shaman. Dazzle. Dazzle.
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that
Dazzle
doesn't make
Windrunner lane. No, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I'll be honest, I did not play a very good Windrunner. I don't play her that often. I know, like, if you ask me, like, what you put points into as Windrunner, I would tell you correctly, but for some reason this game, no, it just didn't. Anyway, so my teammates called me out for being bad going throughout the game, and, I didn't play well. But the Dazzle didn't buy any support items whatsoever. I bought the Courier, upgraded the Courier, bought wards, bought Sentry wards, built Mechanism, started building Pipe. I bought Drum of Endurance as well. Like, all of these sort of Aura team support items. And by the end of the game, it's not like the records really matter as much when you're talking about these support heroes, but for all the talks of being bad, it was like, I was really the one doing my job, and I might have skilled wrong, but really what comes down to it when you're playing those heroes is you providing those support capabilities, the wards and, the Courier and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a whole nother breakdown. We're definitely going to have to do one on just the support role itself, because there's so much to discuss about it. It's probably the most complex role currently in Dota 2, I would say. If you obviously are talking about them roaming as well, there's just so much to go on about. But yeah, definitely a very important thing. But I guess going back to, I kind of want to touch now, because the game's developed so much, I want to kind of touch back on the builds of these heroes that have been picking up the farm, what they've been going. So Nature's Prophet decided to go for a Shadow Blade after, which I guess most people might not understand or agree with. Obviously, that Shadow Blade allows you to go invisible, and then when you break the invisibility, if you attack, you gain that 150 bonus damage. But the reason this used to be probably the most common pickup in even competitive play on him was because you can just use it and cast teleport while you're invis, and it works.
Ah, that's a pretty good idea, yeah. Like my problem with that thing is, as we were just saying, when you're an intelligence hero, you kind of want to focus on things that are going to help your team. People really like going Desolator on Nature's Prophet because it provides the negative armor. And because he's kind of based on his auto attack damage as well, he kind of can like sort of semi carry because he gets so much attack speed and attack damage through items. That Desolator helps him, and then also helps all the attack damage carries on your team and everybody else by reducing the armor. So that's something I much prefer to see on him. It is nice to have the Shadow Blade for escape, but I guess it's situational.
Exactly, and like I said, every game's kind of more or less situational. As you see, Windrunner picked up an Orc Malevolence as her next item, which is once again another great intelligence item, especially on Windrunner. She'll get a lot more attacks, a lot of intelligence, a lot of damage, and then of course you can silence and amplify damage. I mean, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, I mean the amplify damage and the silence, of course, are fantastic support items. They really don't need much else from the looks of it. I mean, they're controlling the game pretty well, so I would personally probably be building the mech and stuff just to ensure that you're not going to lose these team fights. But the silence is a very nice pickup if you're getting the kind of farm that this Windrunner has.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that she built the phase boots. What do you think about that?
That's debatable. It's honestly, it's actually I believe is the recommended boots for her, but you can go back and forth on that one all day. I think I usually go power treads on her, just because I like having the extra stats. I like being able to have that health pool if I need more hits depending on who I'm going against, or if I need more intellect to cast another power shot. And attack speed never hurts. Let's be honest. But
yeah,
phase boots. I mean, obviously it adds the damage, and then you can get that short burst of speed. But the thing is, she already has that with Windrun, which is why I guess it really confuses me.
Yeah,
like she already can move 50% faster for 5 seconds at the last rank. And I guess if you really are afraid of getting initiated on, or I don't know what, but
it was really funny. She was like right kind of above the middle lane up by those stairs, and so she cast Windrun, popped the phase boots, and then force staffed herself towards the bottom lane. Just like, just flying across the screen. It's pretty funny.
It's like Storm Spirit, but who has to run?
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't cost mana, except for the Windwall, of course.
Of course. Obviously, this game is pretty much over at this stage. I mean, when you have the farm going on Nature's Prophet, and of course all of them have a really strong farm, but he's such a great pusher, and when he had such a great start like he did, it's really hard to slow him down.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, we haven't actually talked at all about Shadow Fiend, but one of his early items we can see was Blink Dagger, and that's something very standard on him. So you blink in, pop that ultimate, do a lot of AoE damage. It's also good for chasing people down. I'm liking this. I say we go into another game after this. It looks like our friends are probably going to wind up playing again. I kind of just want to watch them play another. see if this bonk can put something together.
Well, the fact is, he does usually play more of like that solo mid or carry role. So this was kind of a little bit out of his element, I guess. But
yeah.
Either way, They all did a pretty decent job overall. I do like the composition more for this Dire team. I mean, the Earthshaker, Ancient Apparition, Windrunner, so much CC and so much damage coming out from that lineup.
Yeah,
I'm
the
not
nice thing
surprised.
too, when you look at that, you can see that both Pudge and Shaker built arcane boots, which is really nice. I mean, you look at their team, there really isn't a hard carry. Prophet is kind of sort of a semi carry. He does actually wind up building at Desolator. Good to see on him. It's pretty standard, even low level play. But they really did put a lot together to try and keep up the spell casts and keep their momentum moving forward.
Yeah, they kept the pressure up, and that's another important thing. Like, some teams make the mistake of getting a really nice big advantage, especially, when you have a Pudge on your team, it's really easy to get that early advantage, and then they don't do much with it. And it really will hurt them later on in the game, because if you allow those hard carries on the other team to get, like, that farm that they need, then you actually can end up losing to that comeback. Just, for example, a Sven and Shadowfiend late game can just pump out some nasty damage.
Yeah, our friends, I guess you told them, actually, were like, oh, that's a terrible game to cast. You should cast the next one. So I told them we would. So as soon as this finding a match thing goes through, we'll jump to another game. Hopefully, I imagine at least Bonk's going to pick pretty serious business. He needs to, pull it out.
0-11, that's not a fun way to get into a game.
Well, it happens to the best of us.
Sure does.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they wind up playing the next game. Another one of our friends is actually going to be a part of that, so it'll be interesting to see what he can bring to the table. The gay cowboy,
isn't that arguably
one of the best. He gets commented on it so much in all the games he plays. He pretty much picks that up. It's funny to see.
So you want to wrap this up?
Okay. I thought we were just going to carry it in the next game, but
we'll make them two separate segments.
I have to. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our little Brocast breakdown. Actually wound up going a lot more about Jungle Heroes, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one.